It's Thursday.
Oh,
What does that mean?
drinky drinkies.
Thursday time.
Indeed.
Drinky time.
Drinky drinkies.
I'm very excited for this tasting, by the way.
So am I.
So am I.
I am, because it was my idea.
Indeed.
Yes.
Well, what are we doing?
We're doing
We actually
vermouth.
haven't said.
And why are we doing vermouth?
Yummy.
For once in my life, the reason I'm excited for this tasting is because it wasn't my idea.
It was my
It
idea.
was Vivian's idea.
Because I like vermouth. And I want to know what vermouth you drink with what and why.
That's very true. But
Well,
it's a bit of a random thing. People, like, yeah. What is it?
Well,
before we even get there, can I just say, vermouth has had a serious comeback in the last 2 months. Out of seemingly nowhere.
the
So is
first
it vermouth
edition
or
of that was
vermouth?
all the excitement about gin. Then he goes to martinis, and then he was starting to talk vermouth, and everyone's going, "What's vermouth all about?" So
So
Yeah.
are we pronouncing it vermouth or vermouth?
either or.
I say vermouth because there's too many vowels to be called
Okay.
vermouth.
Okay, where it starts from is the German word Vermut,
Right.
which is their word for wormwood.
Right.
But
Gotcha.
the French and the Italians are appropriated. So you can sort of, if you can say it with a German pronunciation or a French one or Italian one, you've got the word. So
Yeah.
I say vermouth mostly because the original vermouth doesn't have an O at all. It's a UT. So I pronounce the U more than the O.
Then you've got mouth. So is it vermouth?
Yeah. Didn't think
Anyway.
about that.
Hello, Liz. Hello, Ian. Harry, Christine.
so whatever you're
Hello.
comfortable with in that instance. But
Hey, Ashley.
this is why I like this one. It's Cocchi.
So we
Oh, yes,
started, for
yeah.
everyone at home, we've started with the Cocchi Vermouth from Torrino.
Aha.
And they call it Vermouth di Torrino because that is the particular style.
But anyway, this is as close to the original vermouth as you're going to get.
Yeah.
That's the point of this one. And vermouth all started in Turin. It all started in Turin in 1780s, in fact.
No, quite a while ago.
Yeah, and it's the turning point for a lot of things. The old Italian Rosso style vermouth, because
Rosso style.
Rosso.
yeah, it was a red wine base that had been fortified, and then flavours and herbs and things added.
Okay, right. I see.
That was it, and that started a few things. First, it was like a flavoured wine and all that sort of thing, but it also started aperitivo, because before then, really, people would knock off and have a beer or a wine or something, but now they were having something a little bit different. And as time went on, people started adding things to it, like they'd add some bitters or whatever else. So from vermouth grew aperitivo, but also, which is that style of eating and drinking, but also grew mixing drinks, so cocktails. This is where cocktails started.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
Right there,
It's
cocktails
also,
started.
the beginning of vermouth is also very closely coincided with the time at which bitters were created, which at the time weren't cocktail bitters, but were herbaceous sort of aromatherapy
Yeah,
for the
okay.
stomach and that sort of thing.
So they came after them.
Which is why you see, if you look at lots of the herbs that go into vermouth, you'll see lots of things that were previously seen to be medicinal.
Is that why they specifically
That's
made
where
it?
that's kind of where it
No,
started.
that's where it started. I mean,
Okay.
all those things go back.
It's good for you.
All those things go back
Yeah.
a really long time. And like this, 2,000 or 3,000 years prior, you have recipes in China and India and Egypt for mixing wine with herbs, but as a remedy. And there's a couple of things in there. Firstly, is the chemical stuff or the essential oils and a lot of the herbs that you want.
Yeah.
Do not dissolve in water.
No.
They float. You can't get them to do that, but they will dissolve in wine or alcohol.
And if you're drinking wine already,
And if
You're just bam,
and
bam.
if you got some crappy herbs that you need to secure your gut or bowel worms or whatever that taste
nice.
really horrible, but you mix it with some yummy wine, all of a sudden
okay.
it's not only is it going to be more dissolvable, but it's going to be easy because you don't have to chew up all these horrible little herbs.
And you're like, yeah, I'll
So
take my
it's
medicine
just-
anytime.
Yes.
so what you're saying is, it was good for you in theory. It tasted good, and you got to drink wine at the same time.
That's it.
Yeah, okay, right.
Right.
Yeah, Liz
Perfect.
says, smells like it should be good for you.
So that's what
Oh, yeah.
that's basic. But the first vermouth of this style was Torrino in the 1780s.
Okay.
And the
Where it
first
all
ones were
began.
red wine based, and they'd been sweetened up to cover the bitter herbs and fortified so that it would last a long time.
This doesn't smell very medicinal though, this one, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, Christine said I definitely smell the raisin notes I usually associate with fortifieds.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's get into the nose on this because this is a really
Yeah,
interesting.
I'm with
thing.
Christine. I get a bit of raisin.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely a bit of a sweeter style.
This is kind of weird. You know pawpaw ointment?
Yeah,
It smells
Yeah.
like that.
I mean, you know,
It's a fermented fruit.
yeah.
Anyway,
make
so
sense?
the base of the vermouth is a fortified wine that's got wormwood and
Wormwood.
other things.
Nah, okay. So this will be, I don't know, in a bottle like this, how much wormwood would you put in? No idea.
Everyone has a different. The recipes are so wide. varied.
From a bit of research I was doing, it's quite complicated because some people started these arguments about who had more vermouth in the more
Wormwood.
wormwood in their vermouth, and it became almost impossible to judge because some of them were saying that the way in which they were infusing it meant that they had to use less to get more
Okay,
flavour.
right. Yeah.
So you know, sometimes they would, you know, do it before it was fortified. Sometimes they would do it after it was fortified.
Sometimes they steep the herbs in the fortifying spirit and then pour it in.
and then
Sometimes they put it in.
Whatever their
Sometimes they
recipe
put it in the
happens
red wine and they boil the red wine. Well, you know, so it's kind of like
Okay,
everyone has
right.
their own
Right.
theory on
to
how
be.
to do it.
Recipe. Right.
So even though you could have fortified wine with all of the same herbs,
Yeah.
they could all be
So many different
treated
ways.
so many different ways.
Yeah, true.
Particularly with that many different.
Oh, and
I get a bit of caramel pudding, like sort of.
Oh yeah.
I'd go as far to say this. I
Really
think
sticky
this has
dough.
got a bit of oak age to it too.
This is his aniseed lolly smell.
I'm going to go into palate. I'm getting lots of vanilla on the nose though.
It's a bit sticky date for me.
Bit like
yeah, very sticky dough.
a little bit treacly.
And I still get a bit of that pawpaw too.
It reminds me of
Oh, delish.
toe cake actually.
Oh, it's got a slightly bitter finish.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that bitterness kicks in
Mm.
right at
But
the
you can-
last second.
So that's that aperitif thing where it starts to wake up your palate.
Yeah, it doesn't dry out to the end too.
Yeah, nice.
Christian said, I got a bitter bite to it, like I'd associate with a Negroni.
As you should.
As you should. Nice.
It's funny, the really sweet middle palate and the really bitter back palate are really balanced
Yeah, it's beautiful.
once you get to the second sip.
It's really nice. So we would just drink this with ice, would we? What would we do with this one?
Yeah, ice, slice of orange, bit of soda,
Yeah.
Negroni.
Actually, we've started with the Cocchi, the Vermouth. And Ian will be tasting it tomorrow as well. Joshua says, caramel sweet, but like the bitter finish. Yes, I think it makes amazing Negroni. Says Liz. Some ice.
It's nice.
Get a nice.
So as I was saying, this is really this is 1760s Turin.
1780s. 1780s, you said.
Yeah, 17. They say 1786, but like how would you know the actual day it was? Like,
Well, the other thing, a lot of the time with things particularly like this, they'll make it and they'll be making it, but it doesn't mean that they're selling it, and it doesn't mean that they've got a brand name on it. So, like a lot of the recipes for some of this really old stuff, it's like families making this stuff. So trying to trace when it exactly started is really difficult because it could be like
That's really
the
delicious.
first time this was made was some bloke, but it's probably based on a recipe from his nonna, a couple of generations before. So it's a bit hard to pinpoint.
anyway, it was all about aperitivo.
Indeed. All right, how do we feel about a bit of soda with this? Should we? Could we?
I just
I
want
just
to
do a
eat.
bit
I want to eat what
of-
Ian's eating.
Yeah, Ian has said snacks tonight are the KFC.
Cor-
Coffin
Korean, Korean fried.
Ah, okay. Korean fried Coffin Bay oysters, iceberg cups, and yuzu mayonnaise. Yum.
Yuzu nice.
Yuzu mayonnaise. I want some of that. What did you go? You went soda.
I'm just adding a dash of soda. I just want to see what happens when you fry it up a little
So
bit.
anyway, from here we just started the journey of not only vermouth, but of cocktails, of aperitivo, of
Oh, whoops.
bitters, and all sorts of things. So it's kind of like it's it's not the starting point of a lot of things, but it's definitely that turning point in history for a lot of things.
I like it better without soda.
Particularly liqueurs as well. Like this is wine and spirits have been a thing for a long time, but bringing them together kind of is what created liqueurs,
Okay.
and it started in places like this.
Like this little back bar.
Oh, that's really good with a dash of soda.
Ashley says we've got prosciutto, olives, and chorizo.
Nice.
Yum.
Yum, yum, yum.
So Liz said reckons it would go well in a Negroni. What else do you reckon this would go well with?
Spagliato.
Yeah.
So what's Spagliato for the people at home?
And me.
Half Campari, half Rosso Vermouth,
And
a
soda.
shot of each with some ice in a glass, and then fill it up with Prosecco.
Oh.
Oh, it is. No, you're right.
Yeah, Prosecco.
I don't drink much Spagliato.
So that was kind of like the original spritz, really. So
Yeah.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of things you could do with this. To be honest, I like it.
I like it on its own.
I like it almost like a in things. It's really good with whiskey
Oh
because
yeah.
it's sweet and rich. So like,
a Bobby Burns or a Manhattan.
Bobby Burns, Manhattans, Boulevardiers, which is
Yeah,
basically
nice.
like a whiskey Negroni, because a lot of those really juicy red vermouths, like really red berry vermouth, kind of can be a bit tricky in whiskey cocktails.
Yeah.
So this is not a red vermouth.
Not
Um,
necessarily.
Christine says I'm with Vivian. I like it best without soda, but with a little ice. And
But the
Ashes.
base is red wine.
yeah.
Okay.
Ashley said tastes more aniseed with the soda water. And Amanda has asked why is it in so many cocktails?
That's where it started.
Yeah.
But why did they do that? Just because it tasted yummy? Or
Well,
what does it add to it?
it adds depth,
It's
structure.
There's a couple of things. Number one, alcohol at 40% doesn't carry oil very well. So a lot of the time when you were drinking straight spirits, it would be really aggressive ethanol at the back of the palate. And because it's a thin liquid with lots of ethanol punch, it can, be pretty rough on people.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to, a lot of the time, give it something to round it out. So because vermouth, as you were saying earlier, is so well known for carrying, that the flavour oils,
The
from all
essential
the
oils
herbs,
and herbs. Yeah.
you're basically bringing the oiliness to the spirit.
So
So
it softens
it
it a little bit.
provides texture to something like
It is a
clear
delicious
spirit.
texture.
Yeah.
It's
But
really nice.
it's where cocktails started, so it's like one of those things where a lot of cocktails started here, so like it's always there. It's
Yeah.
just
So if you were making up a cocktail and it was too punchy, would you consider adding vermouth?
Vermouth is really good because a lot of the time when you make a cocktail that's too strong,
Yep.
what you will do is shake it longer or stir it longer,
Mhm.
and then it will just taste like water.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that and you add half a shot of vermouth in because it's oily, it
Yep.
stops it. It makes a lower alcohol without it tasting like it's been watered down.
Okay.
Oh,
And
Beautiful.
that means that bitterness counteracts less of the ethanol. So you bring the ethanol down, you bring the bitterness up.
But you can also see with this is you can see where bitters came from. You can also see where Amaros came from. If you,
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the start of all
Yeah.
of that.
We were
But
tasting some
Bitters
Amaros
are a
the other
bit
night.
tricky because they've got a bit more of a complicated history in Germany and stuff. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yum.
moving on.
Well, so where does vermouth go then on our journey?
Hang on, where do we want to be drinking?
Oh,
Anywhere.
Aperitivo, I think. I'm just
I feel like it's a bit of a warmer, seasonal kind of, with a
Bit
bit
of
of
ice.
vermouth, bit of soda, a little bit of ice.
slice
Nothing
of orange.
too
even.
warm. Yeah. What
Well-
do you? How you, Luke? You go to your thinking.
I've got my thinking hat on, and I'm trying to avoid saying in Italy because it's slightly too concerning to think about at the moment. But yeah, it's kind of like a hot summer afternoon where you just decide you want to do nothing, kind of like lay in the sun sort of thing.
Liz wants to drink it on her couch.
And Amanda has a quick other question. So if I want a weaker strength cocktail, I can just lift the vermouth ratio.
Yeah, that's the other. I mean, yes and no, but
You still got to balance the sugar
Yeah.
and
If
stuff.
you want a weaker one, the biggest thing is to shake it longer on ice. The longer you shake it on ice, the more the ice breaks down and dilutes your drink.
At which point I would up the vermouth a little.
Well,
Let's
Now,
go.
the next part of the journey is once they've made vermouth out of red wine, the next thing to do is make it out of
White wine.
white wine.
white wine.
And we've been doing it out of red wine, now maybe we can make it out of white wine.
Did they do it in Italy, making it out of white wine, or?
Well, there's a number of different styles then. Around about then, the French got in on the act and started making it out of white wine.
Yeah.
And their style is slightly different, so instead of being sweet like the Italian, it was dry.
But we'll get that.
But first off is obviously the Italians were like, oh, this is so good, we could make it with white wine. So it's like a red wine, except it's made with white wine. So it's slightly sweeter. So that's why it's their Bianco style. You often see a Bianco.
Obviously, looked like I needed a whole bottle.
This is a Spanish one, so because everyone got into vermouth, so not just the Italians.
Progressed.
So the
Got
reason,
the French and the Spanish.
Yeah, we are moving on to the Olave, by the way.
so this is a bit of a tricky thing. Not a lot of people know about white vermouth because people think of it as sweet vermouth and dry vermouth, and just assume sweet is red and dry is white. But there's these things in the middle, which are sweet white vermouth and dry red vermouth.
And the Spanish tend to be particularly good at those, both of those two things.
They're not necessarily sweet or dry, they're kind of in the middle.
Okay.
But so what this is it's a white vermouth, but it is not a dry vermouth. It's neither sweet nor dry.
And what would... Oh, we'll get to
Stuck
that.
in
I'll
the
have...
middle.
I'll have a question later, if that's okay. So, the Spanish, do they do essentially the same thing as the Italians?
But it's sort of spread out of the Turin thing over the time, because like the first white wine vermouth started to show up in France around 1812, 1820, somewhere there.
Yeah, okay.
It really took off
About
pretty
30
quickly.
years, 30 years to spread.
But the reason it's difficult to trace after it leaves places like this is because it moved to everywhere that had a port and everywhere that had wine. Which is why from Italy it goes straight to France, it goes straight to Spain, because they were the big wine producers at the time.
Yeah.
So anyone who had an excess of wine that was going to go off, you could make it into vermouth. So a lot of the Spanish and the French quickly learned from things like the Cocchi style stuff, that if they could stop their wine from going off, or the wine that was going to go off, if they could save it and do something with it, then that was like an absolute gold mine.
Yeah, okay. Right.
Anyway,
So, sweeter white.
now I tend to find the Spanish style to be a bit on the juicy, oilier side. And not all of them are as bitter.
Oh. Christian said, is anyone else getting lemon thyme notes
Yep.
on the nose?
Yeah,
I am Christine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well done. Well picked.
almost oregano.
Yeah, I reckon oregano.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, it could have.
Which sounds like it might be awful, but it's actually nice.
might have all those things in it, you know.
It's vermouths like this that make you really fall down the traditions of a martini.
Mhm.
Because martinis were not originally made with dry vermouth. They were made with
Sweet vermouth.
white vermouth. After they were made with red vermouth. But the
Does anyone make martinis with red vermouth?
Yep,
anymore?
it's called a martinez.
Oh, there you
Often confused with people calling trying to make a Mexican style martini. So they call it a martinez because martinez is obviously a Spanish name.
Yeah.
And they make it with tequila.
Ah.
Which is kind of a little bit
What?
racially questionable. But a martinez is traditionally like a martini made with a sweet red vermouth.
Yeah, nice.
But yeah, you're thinking, thyme, herbaceous.
Yeah.
Yeah, but have a taste.
Oh, I forgot how much I love
That's-
this for me.
We've got some interesting tasting notes from Ash and James. Ash says, I got a whiff of arts and craft at the section at Spotlight. And James says, it's a plastic smell.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, I get that.
There's a particular, maybe I think that might have something to do with a particular type of oil in there that's the same that maybe is giving you the plasticine oil.
Hello, Jen Donaldson. How are you?
Right.
Tastes better than it smells.
Liz has said, yeah, tastes better than it smells.
Yeah, stop smelling, start drinking. Oh, I'm
Christina
tasting
says,
it.
I can definitely see how this would be an appetizer style drink.
Oh, yum. That is
I'm
so,
gonna
that
try.
texture is delicious.
I've always got to give it to the Spanish vermouths on the texture. They really know how to do it.
So creamy and
Yeah.
rich.
And it's, you know, very different to a dry
See,
white.
this is the journey we are on.
We're on a journey.
Yeah.
We're on
Yum.
the
And
journey.
it's so sweet in a good way.
It's not cloying sweet though, is it?
No, but it's velvet sweet.
So what would you mix with this thing?
I love this in a martini.
Okay.
Because
Oh,
that's the other thing is, people love dry martinis and they can talk about it till they're blue in the face. But you know, if you want really good complexity in a martini, get yourself a bone dry gin and a nice juicy vermouth.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah.
I think this
There's
is a
just so
martini
much
with
going
a,
on.
you can smell and taste this. You can just see an olive and a twist of lemon, and you're off and racing.
Reach for more. Christina says it's very light and lemony. Lovely.
Mm.
And Jen says, hello.
That would be great before you ate roast chicken.
Well, yeah, that was another
Full of fish.
Christine note. She was like, I've started craving roast chook.
Yeah.
Oh, if you had chook cooked with thyme.
Yeah, that's
Well, this
and
is what
lemon inside.
This is what Ashley's saying. Ashley's saying I almost think a bunch of herbs like rosemary, thyme, and lemon. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, the reason we sent out gin to a lot of the people who wanted it and offered it with this is Ross was originally thinking we would do more of a Sabagliato spritz sort of style. But I realised most of the reason that gin has had, vermouth has had such a boom over the last couple of weeks is started with the quarantine in 2020 and then moved to at-home cocktails, and obviously the easiest cocktail to go to after that is a Negroni.
Mm-hmm.
And the one common ingredient is, of course, gin and vermouth. So a lot of the time when we send out vermouth to people, it ends up in a martini.
Jane, we've done the Cocchi, so you've missed that one. You can wind back and have a look at that afterwards. And we're on the Olave Vermouth.
So I just added a little bit of equal parts gin and equal parts vermouth.
Yeah, Christine says this vermouth with NB gin. ... And Lizzie said this has made an amazing martini, left Negroni behind.
Yeah. This
Can I
is a
taste it?
serious martini situation.
I don't know how much. You know one in there.
Oh yeah, yum. That really, as you say, that complexity, the difference between the NB, which is a really nice, crisp,
Really
London
crisp and
dry, but then you've got all of that unctuous,
Juicy.
juicy yum. That's
But
great.
But if you mix two dry things together, you're just going to get more dry, and then you're going to lose some complexity there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
if
no,
you
that's
bring dry and
delicious.
sweet together,
Yeah.
you just
Mm-mm. Damn, that's good.
Damn. So do you think that's a vermouth made for a martini?
it's good in every cocktail I've tried it in
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
so far.
Right.
If you want a good
A good go-to vermouth.
go-to affordable vermouth, Olave really.
That's the one.
It's also a really pretty label.
Cool.
Yeah.
I could have
Yeah.
put this down before I am.
And drink it all. Well, where do we want to be drinking that?
I
It's
want to
definitely aperitivo. But everyone
Yeah.
said I've had that now on roast chicken.
Yeah, true.
first I want to drink
I want to
it.
have that, and I'm thinking not just roast chicken. I'm thinking mussels. I'm thinking
Yeah.
or some white fish. Some grilled
Josh is
fish.
tasting
Yeah.
it with a Tiny Bear Christmas pudding gin, which might be a bit much, he says.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I think so, Josh. I think
I
you probably
wanna
need something
drink
plainer.
Yeah, as you guys say, just before eating food, maybe like a paella.
Mm.
But
And
again,
then I want to finish the night with it again. So I'm going to start the night with it there, and then finish the night with a big martini.
no, but hence the point about aperitivo. I mean, that's what aperitivo is all about. You have one or two things before you
Sharpen
go
the
to dinner.
palate.
And then it becomes.
Yeah, I think I needed a bit more vermouth with mine. I think I've got too much gin.
Heather has asked, what proportion gin to the vermouth? 1-to-1?
We're doing 1-to-1, but if you're focusing on the vermouth, start 2 vermouth to 1 gin, and
Work your way up.
work your way up. Normally, when we're
1 to
doing
1.5, yeah.
me and Eva have been doing a lot of martini gin tastings. So, and we start with
The gin.
and we slowly creep up with the vermouth. But because we're focusing on the
Sneaky
vermouth,
vermouth.
do it the other way around.
Yeah.
But original martinis were 50-50 vermouth and gin.
Yeah.
But these days, it's nowhere near that. It's just a...
Yeah.
We'll get into that when we get to the next one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all really
delicious. I like that a lot.
We started off here with the red type style of sweet vermouth, which slowly then sprung out into white styles of vermouth.
The weight.
And around at the time that these things were happening, the French were doing these things.
What are those things?
Instead of being sweet vermouth, it's then
Dry
dry
vermouth. So this is
So
the
we can use
Dolin
white
dry.
wine, but we make it dry.
Yeah.
We don't make it sweet.
Right. Dolin.
And to do that, they have to be a lot more refined with the herbs, because the thing with the being sweet was to counteract the bitter flavours of the wormwood and a lot of the other herbs they were using
Okay.
to sort of balance it out.
Yeah.
So they have to be a lot more subtle with, although they still use some wormwood, etc., etc., etc. They have to be a lot more, a lot more finesse, a lot more measured.
There.
Not just dump a whole lot of it in
Yeah.
there and then just cover it up with some sugar.
Well,
Yeah.
the other problem is that some of the vermouths, they found herbs that went really well with wormwood, and wormwood's really, 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 really extremely bitter. And to balance things that would go with it and make it work, sometimes there would be lots of anise flavoured things. And if you know anything about licorice root, you'd know that it's 6 times sweeter than sugar.
Oh.
So if you added a tiny, tiny little bit of licorice, it would go with the wormwood and it would sweeten your vermouth.
Yeah.
But with an extra dry, you can't do that.
Really?
So they've got to be really smart.
Liz has mentioned a gross tasting note. Dead sock smell.
That's a really good tasting note. That's really good.
Yummy.
No, well, because
I think it's a boy.
you're talking about
Dirty
socks
sock.
and wet socks.
Smell.
That- It's really interesting because
I'm getting a herbaceous.
if it smells wet, it says that there's something going on because it has to be kind of oily to smell wet.
Yeah, right.
Because a straight, clean white spirit doesn't smell wet. It smells acidic.
Christina's then gone counteracted, saying, I'm getting sweet floral notes, honeysuckle.
I get honeysuckle. I get chrysanthemum.
Chrysanthemums.
Yeah.
Chrysanthemums.
Chrysanthemum.
How do you pronounce it?
Chrysanthemum. Oh, now I can't do it. Chrysanthemum.
Mum?
Chrysanthemum.
Chrysanthemum.
Well,
If you can say the word properly, you haven't had enough to drink.
Exactly.
it'll be a new test. Can you spell chrysanthemum?
All right.
Oh, not spelling.
What else are we getting in the
Just
nose?
saying.
There's something else
Stop
going
it.
on.
I get that it smells wet. That makes sense.
Petrichor?
Ah!
No,
it's
I'm
just
also getting a
water.
herb like lemon verbena or lemon balm. Or
I'm getting that slightly agave sort of smell.
Oh, yeah.
Succulent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pig face.
What does it remind me of?
No, I'm just going to dive in.
It
Sorry.
doesn't have a huge aroma.
I'd also like to say, when I was bottling these, to make a white wine this clear, they've got to be pressing it off the skins ASAP.
ASAP.
So I also don't know what level of filtration this has gone through.
Now, on the palate, there's just a real hint of aniseed. It's right at the back.
Ashley says elderflower. Christine says well spotted, Luke. Now I'm getting the mentioned chrysanthemum.
Thanks, Ed.
It's a lot easier saying it when you're reading it.
Chrysanthemum.
Chrysanthemums.
I always say it with an N, and I don't care.
Yeah.
It starts really dry floral, like it reminds me of dried flowers.
Oh.
And then at the end, it's sort of a green, almost like dried mint.
I was thinking more like, yeah, something dried but more grassy. Maybe. What do you reckon? Ross?
Yeah,
It's a tricky one.
yeah, but it's a bit like the agave kind of flavours. It's kind of,
It's almost like rosemary.
yeah.
You reckon?
Yeah, you know that sort of like. I don't know.
Rosemary.
No, I was gonna say waxy, woody, dry.
Yeah, okay. I feel like this is
I-
a tricky one.
In my
because there's
mind,
something
I see
offensive.
the flavour as like the dark green colour of rosemary. Like,
Yeah.
So what do we do with this one?
Yeah.
I'm not so sure about this one.
this is made for dry martinis.
So do we make a dry martini?
Isn't it just going to be dry on dry on dry?
I'm going to straight up say I really am not a huge martini. I'm a huge martini drinker. I'm not a huge dry vermouth in a martini fan. I think it's just overkill.
Christina says the taste falls a bit flat for me. I kind of agree.
Yeah, me too. I think this is a bit disappointing.
I think it's just the problem with this is that it's trying so desperately to be dry that not all the oiliness of the herbs can come through.
Should we have done it the other way, starting with the dry?
We thought about that, but we thought we'd go
But
more.
we're going on the journey. But if you were to do, like, drink it in the future, would you start with something like a dry to begin with?
It's tricky because normally I would go dry to sweet, but at the same time, this could kill. If I had too much of this, it could kill my palate for.
Yeah, it's a tricky one.
That's not a thing.
That tastes a bit weird.
The one thing about martinis, it's kind of like chili. It becomes this game of who can eat more chili. Like how
Who can
dry
have a dry?
can you get it?
No.
And someone once said
That's not a thing.
that they wanted their martini so dry that it shouldn't be more than a bottle of vermouth near the gin.
Well, in that case, just drink gin.
Yeah.
Let's stop
That's
calling it a
my point.
Stop calling it a martini and just get over yourself.
And then it was kind of like, oh, but then it's just gin. And then it was like, so if it has to have vermouth, we're going to have the driest vermouth we possibly can. And I kind of get to a point where it's a bit of a
Anyway,
pissing
that doesn't
contest.
do it for me.
No.
But
I can't-
that being said, when it's super, super cold, with a little bit of olive brine,
Yeah.
the drier it is, if it's cold, it tastes less.
Well, then why not just drink something else?
Anyway, some people like that.
Oh, Christina said, I find that it brings out the flavours of the samphire and gin, which I normally find very subtle in flavour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That-
Lisa says it's a good martini, better than I thought. So I think it's very much personal preference.
Yeah.
Like,
Got
some
some
people
nice
really
herbal.
do like
It got
that.
some nice herbal notes though, so I think it'll get the right mix of highlighting these things. Now we get on to the exciting thing.
Well,
What-
before we move on, I will say, you can get yourself a sweet gin
and a dry
and
vermouth.
a dry vermouth.
Well, Joshua says dry vermouth is always tough to sell for me. It's got that white wine flavour that I don't like, without the intensity of the other flavours. The Spanish one has it.
I understand what you mean. If you don't like white wine, it might not be
Yeah.
a good idea.
I love white wine.
Well, what
Oh.
are we doing now?
Okay, part of the
This
whole...
over to Luke.
yeah, I'm going to take this over. We've done vermouth tastings before, and I wasn't sure about vermouth tasting, and I said, oh, we've done lots of vermouth, yada, yada, yada. And then I realised we have a new vermouth that I haven't even tried yet, which is finding something in the store that I haven't tasted is pretty rough on this day.
I found something the other day.
We've, for a very long time, we've had a couple of different things that were wormwood based, whether it be wormwood liqueurs, which are often called absinthe liqueurs,
Jennifer.
Genepe, which is a different type of wormwood liqueur, and a thing that is called or referred to as absinthe vermouth.
Mhm.
Bit of a grey area. Vermouth always is supposed to have wormwood in it. To call something absinthe comes from the traditional name for wormwood. So technically, most vermouth is
It's kind of
absinthe
an
vermouth. Like it's got wormwood in it, right?
Mm.
But what we call these days a absinthe vermouth is basically, let's take vermouth and it wants to taste like
Wormwood.
wormwood,
Ah,
undeniably.
So they would just put
Which I love
a
because
whole lot of
the
wormwood
one
in that.
key thing about vermouth
Yeah.
is wormwood. So it's like, what if we took vermouth and made it more vermouth?
Yeah.
It's just so ridiculous.
Just wormwood.
So we stumbled across this recently. It is, they call it Vermouth de Forcalquier. I don't know what that means. It's from Distilleries et Domaine de Provence, the same group of distilleries that bring you things like
Absinthe.
no, not Absinthe, peach
Oh, Queen.
ring queen queen. They also bring you Pernod Ricard and some other really famous French liqueurs and aperitifs and stuff.
That kind of thing.
These guys have been distilling stuff for years and years and years and years and years. And so if anyone's going to make a good one,
These are the guys.
and I've got to say,
We've lost it.
while I was bottling these the other day, the smell of this was making me salivate.
I thought this one was really interesting. I wasn't sure what it was going to smell like.
The other reason I really like things like this is because we talk about wormwood being really bitter, but we don't
Whoa.
often. A lot of people don't know what vermouth tastes like. What wormwood tastes like.
I know what it smells like
We
now.
have Andrew. That absinthe vermouth makes a great martini. Picked it up from Week's last time I was in the city.
Yep.
That must have been, well, there you go.
Indeed. I remember it.
Liz has said, again, smells like it should be good for me. Chris said, OMG, this smells like an olive pizza.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's olives meets licorice, and the fact that those two things have an in-between, a thing in common.
What was the tasting note I said the other day? It smells like capsicum or
Green capsicum.
Capsaicin.
capsaicin. It
Yeah.
smells like that.
Like even the smell of green habanero.
Yeah, like
green
Jalapenos.
jalapenos.
Yeah. Oh, like it smells like it's going to be spicy.
The aromatics of it is just
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Very punchy.
Liz says, smells very oregano-like.
yeah. There's oregano. There's oliviness. There's capsicuminess. There's almost
Green capsicum, green olive pizza.
Yeah, that's what it is.
even like
Oily,
a,
yeah.
We're getting a hint of that tequila kind of.
Oh, yeah. But is that what you, like a jalapeno margarita?
no, tequila's got that really fragrant
I'm going to taste it now.
what
Yeah.
What's the ABV on this one before we try it? I'm curious.
Oh,
it's the
wow.
same.
That's delicious.
Delicious. Oh, it's an 18%.
That tastes so much better than it smells.
Oh, it's like syrupy.
Mm.
yeah. So I'm pretty sure this has been
It's got that tequila kind of
this
texture.
has had a bit of licorice root put in there, because I know that to call it an absinthe vermouth as well as doing wormwood, they often stick to sort of absinthe flavours. So there's usually a bit of mint, usually a bit of licorice for sweetness.
It's got that reposado tequila texture.
Mm.
But again,
This
that's
is
all the
serious.
essential oils going on.
Mm.
Would you have any like barrel aging with that sort of thing?
I wouldn't be surprised.
No.
A lot of the time when they pump stuff with as much herbs as that, they need to let it rest anyway.
This is sort of like a really souped up version of the Olave.
Mm. It really is.
It's a bit less flexible. I don't know what you'd do with it.
It's very complex though.
Christine says, I definitely get the grilled capsicum now that you guys mention it. Capsicum and green olives.
Oh, I don't know. I think this will make a good martini.
Well, as Andrew said, yeah. Do we add ice? Do we add gin? What do we do? What? Top up your glasses, what?
Glug, 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 glug.
Like.
I'm going to add ice to this and then see how.
Christine says, wow, this is really sweetly herbaceous, like basil. And as I said, it's a Ricard finish. Yeah, it is a bit.
That's nice, please.
How interesting.
Really didn't put the glass.
Oh my gosh. Ice just really opens it. And it just becomes.
Is that guys?
Yeah.
The juiciness comes out.
Oh, yeah. That's nice.
I'm going to dash in.
Andrew says, a bit of a citrusy finish as well.
Yeah.
Kept that nice. Well, what's gin that you know?
It almost makes me think of a really herbally green Sauv Blanc. In a weird way.
The green capsicum.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say,
But better.
when I've had absinthe vermouths in the past, I've always made myself absinthe martinis.
Yeah. What have you put in it?
Oh, that's
What gin?
nice.
I just put a bit of gin in there.
Can I have these? Have
That's
a gin?
delish. That's actually very nice.
And how
And
much gin did you put in this?
I've put equal parts, but I reckon
I didn't. I just did a dash.
Start there.
I think was it Andrew who said it makes a good bar.
Yeah.
Liz says the best martini for the evening.
Ash also said it looked like Viv was just necking the gin. Ah.
Oh, I haven't had an absinthe martini in a while.
Now that smells like Rosemary wants to put gin in.
It also goes
Oh! Yum!
heaven. Absolute.
That's
Heaven.
tasty. Ross has gone, yeah.
Go easy. Yeah.
Must be
Yeah. I was really unsure about this one. I thought I was going to dislike it and thought it was too weird. But that's really yummy.
It's just
See, I told you you're going to enjoy the journey.
I did.
Had a bit of a hiccup around the Dolin, I reckon.
Well, it's part of the journey. You live and you learn.
Well, the first documented version of the dry white vermouth was Nolly Pra.
yeah.
We might have used that. But
I thought about using that, but
The reason we didn't use Nolly Prat is because we figured if it's going to sit with lots of sweeter vermouths, Dolin is probably the driest of dried vermouths.
Yep.
So it's like, if you're going to do dry vermouth,
You better do dry.
you better do dry vermouth.
Yeah.
Anyway, where do we want to be drinking this
Anywhere.
absinthe vermouth?
Anyway.
No, this is really, to me, this has got a really nightclubby kind
Nightclubby.
of feeling to it.
How on earth are we going to go to a
Party drink.
nightclub?
Yeah, I reckon that's got it.
Okay.
You know what? No.
After dinner, late at night, warm weather, loud music.
Nightclub. Yeah. Right.
Outside.
Back
No,
there.
it's not just nightclub. It's kind of this is maybe slightly too specific. It's a very European thing, but you've done everything you're going to do for the night, and there's always that one dark, cool, sexy bar that's open way too late
Yeah.
that you go for your last drink,
Mm.
and you see all the people who stay up too late at night,
Mm.
and they're sort of all sitting around,
Like.
skulking.
Christine's in a smoky bar on poker night.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, the city people who smoke too many cigarettes, and it's, maybe
Yeah.
2 a.m. and it's
Liz,
all night.
balcony on a balmy evening.
Yeah. Josh said dug up some 4 pillars, which is bringing out the citrus. Interesting.
Interesting.
Mm. Now, do we have a favourite?
I've got
I think they're all quite different,
I've
but
got
we have
3 favourites.
no,
But yeah, they're all different.
all very different.
I
What's our favourite today? What do we want to drink?
I want to
today?
drink the Olave on its own with ice. I really like that on its own.
Fair. It's a good one. Yeah.
I'm Even Stevens. With the exception of the Dolin. I think all 3 of those I want to drink.
Fair enough.
Because in my mind I see different applications.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I see
Well, I'm for my vote. 1, 2, 3,
Oh.
4. So down the
Fair.
middle.
I would say I want to drink this with ice.
Yeah.
I want to drink this as my regular martini.
Mhm.
And I just want to play with this. I want to mix this with everything and just see what it does.
Do anything.
Do you know what
with
I
it.
mean?
Yeah.
It's a really playful thing that
Is that
tastes...
the one you were playing with yesterday?
No, it was not.
No. Okay. Well, hear about it.
But now that we have an open bottle, there might be some
Yes.
experimentation to be done.
Beautiful. Well, do we have any last comments on these?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, I love them.
They were really good.
I'm really pleased we decided to do that.
Yeah. So am I. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, what's happening next week, boys and girls?
Next week we are still a little bit unsure.
Next week we are doing at the cocktails.
Online.
We've been postponing an in-store event for quite some time. Due to the situation with lockdowns, we kind of can't continue to postpone. We actually just need to do it. So we're going to be changing the script a little bit. Sometime during the week we will be sort of giving you guys teasers of what we're going to be doing.
Yep.
But I can guarantee you will get a tasting pack. It
Yep.
will include at the gin for a gin and tonic. Then we're going to move on to another cocktail, another anther cocktail.
Yep.
And we're probably going to finish off with the pièce de résistance, which will be a Charlie Chaplin, which is a very traditional cocktail, but we've twisted up and we're using the cherry gin from Anther, and it's their brand new release of 2021, I believe. And I tasted it yesterday, the cocktail, because I made up a little batch yesterday, and oh my god, it's in for a treat.
Nice.
Awesome.
So
Beautiful. Well, that will be all listed. We're going to change everything, and you can still buy all of that.
So it will be up tomorrow morning.
It's already up.
It's already up, so you can buy it online. Get in early so that we don't have to run around.
indeed.
All right. Bye. Stay safe, guys.
Adios.